Hello everyone. Welcome to the Lansdowne 2.0 Public Forum. It is great to see so many people in the room, and we know there's a lot of people online too. In fact, over 500 people have registered for this event tonight. So, my name is Neil Saravanamuttu. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional unceded land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. The Anishinaabe Algonquin people have lived on these lands for millennia, and their presence continues to nurture it. For those in the room, we have a few housekeeping notes. There are bathrooms to your left. They're fully accessible. We have Wi-Fi, and the password is posted on the wall. I think you might need it if you want to connect with the outside world. And finally, there are some posters on the wall with a QR code. They point to the research, the polling research that we'll be talking about in a few minutes. So if you want to get more details on that polling research, those QR codes will help you. Tonight's event is hosted by Better Ottawa. Now, you might be familiar with the Better Ottawa Municipal Panel. It's where former municipal reporters Joanne Chianello and John Willing sit down with me every week and we talk about what's happening at Ottawa City Hall. Joanne has kindly agreed to be our moderator for this evening, so we have a special treat there. So thank you, Joanne. Now, Better Ottawa is also a platform for residents of Ottawa to come together quickly and work together on any issues of concern. So, for instance, a number of us, in fact, hundreds of residents have got together and used the Better Ottawa platform to advocate on the Lansdowne 2.0 proposal. I'd like to first say a few words of thanks. Now, first of all, thank you to everyone that's here. It's a real testament to civic engagement that we have so many people ready to come on a rainy Monday night out to a location, and of course to join us online too. So thank you everyone that's here. I would also like to thank those city councillors that are joining us. So we have Councillor Menard who will be speaking tonight, but I've also seen Councillor Leeper and Councillor Bradley here, and if there's any others that I've missed, I don't think I've missed anyone else, but I'm sure there are other councillors watching online tonight, so thank you for being with us. I would like to thank Rogers TV, who are providing the broadcast and the online facilitation for the event tonight. I'd like to thank the Salvation Army for letting us use this wonderful facility, the Salvation Army Barrhaven Church and Community Center. Yes, thank you, Salvation Army. And finally, for those of us in the room, I'd like to thank Barrhaven Pizza for keeping us all with full bellies. And just one last thank you. I'd like to thank Joanne and the panel, who will be introduced in a minute, who have all come out to tell us about their experience and their areas of expertise that we will be talking about. Now, I did invite both the mayor and the head of the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group to come and join us tonight. I heard back from OSEG and they are unable to be here. I have not heard from the mayor's office, so we have kept a chair open in case he does arrive. Now, it's important to remember that Lansdowne 2.0 is a citywide issue. And in fact, that's why we're holding it tonight in Barrhaven. Taxpayers across the city will pay equally for this investment, this stadium renovation. Now, we saw this morning the Auditor General has released her report, and it confirms a number of the points in the financial plan that some people have been making for many months now. And most importantly, what we discovered this morning, or we had confirmed this morning by the Auditor General, that taxpayers will pay $17 million a year in annual debt payments for Lansdowne, and not the $4 million that we have been promised. Now, there will be some revenue that will come in to soften the blow, but the starting point is that taxpayers will be on the hook for the full amount, and anything that comes in will just reduce that. So it's important to think of this as a taxpayer-funded initiative, because the other point that the Auditor General was able to confirm in her report this morning is that there is an opportunity cost to investing in Lansdowne, meaning that if we're spending $17 million a year on Lansdowne. That is money that we could be spending to fix or maintain other assets around the city. So there is an opportunity cost to this project. Now, the mayor has suggested that the Lansdowne proposal is too complex for residents to fully understand. And I respectfully disagree, as I think many people in this room do too. You know, it's actually quite simple. Hundreds of millions of dollars for a sports stadium when we have so many other pressing concerns. And furthermore, what we found out last week was little concern for whether a smaller stadium forces the Ottawa Charge to move elsewhere. I mean, that's the bottom line of this proposal, and it doesn't need to be a lot more complex than that. I'd like to share with you an email that I received yesterday from Jerry Fiore. He's the past chair of the Ottawa Disability Coalition. And I bring this up because there's been a lot of discussion around some of the accessibility challenges within Lansdowne. And Jerry has been highly critical of the accessibility issues at Lansdowne. And he wrote that those failures at Lansdowne, those failures do not justify the exorbitant use of funds and resources on Lansdowne 2.0 when there are many more urgent priorities. So I think that's important to keep in mind, that we're all very much aware of the accessibility concerns. These are not unique to Lansdowne. These are issues with virtually all of our city facilities that need to be addressed. Now, I am not, as I think anyone that's heard me speak on this topic before, I am not a neutral party on this issue. I have said repeatedly that Lansdowne 2.0 is a bad deal for taxpayers, that it's really more about fixing a broken business model for the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group than it is about fixing a broken stadium. And this is hundreds of millions of dollars that we could be spending to fix anywhere in the city. In fact, the more we talk about Lansdowne, the worse the proposal sounds. Some of you might have heard the latest report we had was that City Folk, a festival that's been on site for many years, is not sure if they'll be able to continue in the future at Lansdowne. Now, tonight is a chance for you to ask your questions and to voice your comments. It's really important that there's an opportunity for public engagement, for people to be able to stand up at the microphone and ask their questions or say how they feel. That's just not something that we've had in city engagement to this day. But I would ask, please keep it respectful. We may disagree with certain perspectives, but I'd ask that we avoid any personal attacks or making any unproven allegations. Okay? Tonight we will start with some polling results that Councillor Menard has commissioned. Then Joanne and the panel will take over with each of the panelists providing some brief opening remarks. But we want to save as much time as possible for questions and comments from the floor, from the audience, both in the room here, but as well as online. We do ask that you keep your remarks brief so that we can hear from as many different voices as possible. And our event will close at 8:30 sharp. Now, just one last point I wanted to leave with you, and that's that the final council vote on Lansdowne 2.0 takes place on Friday at City Hall. Now, a number of concerned local organizations have said that we need to actually make councillors aware of how people feel about this issue. And so we're planning a mass rally on Friday morning. So Friday morning, 8:30 at City Hall. If you can, we'd be very grateful if you could join us just to show councillors how many people care about this issue and how seriously we take it. This will be our final chance to stop Lansdowne 2.0. And we need to show councillors that they cannot hide in the shadows, that they will be held accountable for choosing to put the priorities of wealthy team owners ahead of ordinary residents. So thanks again for everyone for being here. Councillor Menard, I'd like to turn the floor over to you and ask, what do the people of Ottawa think of the Lansdowne 2.0 proposal?
Well, thanks so much, Neil, and a huge round of applause for you for all you've done on this issue. Neil mentioned a few of the city councillors in the room as well. I wanted to also mention that online, Wilson Lowe is online as well. We're actually in Wilson Lowe's ward in Barrhaven, and I know he's thinking very hard about this deal. And Friday, he just had his family just had a new baby as well. So I know it's extra time. Congratulations to Wilson. I'm the city councilor for Capital Ward, where Lansdowne Park is entirely located. And this evening I want to share a very recent survey conducted by Nanos Research, which was just released last week. Nanos conducted a representative non-probability online survey of 764 residents of Ottawa, 18 years of age or older, between September 15th to October 1st, 2025. The central question we wanted to answer with this research was, what do residents think about the Lansdowne 2.0 proposal? Next slide, please. So, in short, when presented with an overview of the proposed changes to Lansdowne Park, as well as the cost of the plan and the details, 60% of residents oppose or somewhat oppose the proposal. Next slide. Let's look at the numbers in greater detail. We want to be really transparent about this. First, we asked residents how they felt about Lansdowne 2.0 based only on what they already knew about the plan. That's the graph you see on the left up here. You can see there's a fair amount of green there. When asked, do you want a shiny new stadium and hockey arena without any context, residents say yes. That's like offering someone a Porsche. Of course, they probably say yes to that if it's free, and sounds like there's no other strings attached. Then we told residents more about Lansdowne 2.0. We told them the cost, including the $419 million plus the parking cost at $437 million. And incidentally, the cost has gone up since this survey was conducted, with the final price tag, including the retail podium, at $483 million, which includes the cost of both those pieces, parking and the retail. We told residents that Lansdowne 2.0 would see a new, smaller Northside stands, which is true. It would see a smaller hockey arena that would be built onto existing park space. We told them it would sell off public space, the air rights, for example, to a developer to build the 2 condo skyscrapers above a replacement strip of retail businesses. A lot of people don't know the retail that they're replacing will be about the same size as exists today. The more residents learned about Lansdowne 2.0, the more they disapproved of the proposal. That's the graph to the right, how residents feel about the plan after learning more about it. You can see there's a lot more red and pink in that graph. That's the 60% of residents who disapprove or somewhat disapprove of the project after hearing some of the details. We had a lot more interesting pieces from this survey as well. So next slide. So what specifically do residents approve or disapprove of? The top 3 most disliked aspects of the plan, according to Nanos, was the loss of green space, the hundreds of millions of new debt which the city will take on to pay for the project, and the reduced seating capacity in the arena and event center. Starting from the top, Lansdowne 2.0 would see 58,000 square feet of green space removed from Lansdowne Park. As we heard, city folk is now considering whether that site is suitable for them now. 3/4 of Ottawa residents find this unacceptable. The new arena will be built where part of the Great Lawn and the existing Green Hill is, which is a really well-used and well-loved hill for sledding, for watching sports games from afar, with artist Jill Anholt's work on it. And again, for city folk who we just heard from today, and for many other community activities. Residents say, and this is residents right across the city in every area of the city, east, west, south, and central, that they are not in favor of the loss of this space. It's unacceptable. On to debt. 67% of residents say it's unacceptable that the city will take out $331 million in new debt to pay for the plan. As we recently learned, this means $17.4 million in new budget spending per year for residents in order to pay off this debt. That means that $17.4 million will be displaced from already existing city services in the budget every year. We know that puts pressure on our budget. Taxpayers are on the hook for the full cost of this, with the hope that non-guaranteed revenue will help offset the costs over the next 50 years. And finally, 65% of Ottawa residents find it unacceptable that the capacity in the hockey arena and event center would be reduced. The final plan shows the new arena would have 3,000 fewer seats than it does now, bringing the total seat count down to 5,850. Now, this is in spite of the fact that the Ottawa Charge has attracted record attendance to games. On average, about 7,000 seated fans. Some games have attracted more than 8,000 fans. And understandably, the Professional Women's Hockey League has since described this seating reduction as not viable. It will mean higher ticket prices, less seats for fans, and as we heard from the PWHL, it does not spell success for the Ottawa Charge. As you can see, residents disapprove as well. Next slide, please. So what would residents rather see at Lansdowne Park? Given the option, the vast majority of residents would rather see the existing buildings at Lansdowne Park maintained rather than replaced. And engineering reports have shown that this is possible. They are structurally sound. They do need some work. Both the north side stands and the Civic Center arena have years of useful life left in them. They could be maintained for just $1 million per year at a fraction of the price of the proposed Lansdowne 2.0. When there's something wrong with your home, but it's structurally sound, you don't knock it down and build it over again. You repair it and improve it. That's what engineers say is possible at Lansdowne, and that's what many residents want to see. Next slide, please. Finally, you can see there's a real reluctance among residents to believe that this project would be completed on budget or even on time. There's a very good reason for this. Just today, the city's Auditor General released that report on Lansdowne 2.0 with a lot of alarming information, alerting the public to increased risks that could push the cost of the project higher and lead to less revenue generated for the city and OSEG. The research confirms what we've known for a long time. Residents do not want to see the city replace buildings that could be maintained for decades to come at a fraction of the price. Residents do not want to see the city take on more than $300 million in debt, and they have other priorities, including an urgent housing crisis, a massive gap in transit funding, and a $10.8 billion infrastructure deficit for essential services like roads and water pipes that we rely on every day. One other point I'll mention is that residents also want to see accessibility upgrades at Lansdowne. I agree completely. And just this past weekend, as Neil mentioned, the Ottawa Disability Coalition came out with a press release. They represent 20 organizations supporting seniors and persons with disabilities, and they wrote to councillors and the mayor saying the same thing, that we need upgrades to the facilities. But Jerry Fiore, the past chair, also wanted me to pass along to you that they do not support Lansdowne 2.0, and they instead want the city to invest these funds in safe, accessible, inclusive housing and address youth homelessness, something that will benefit so many residents of Ottawa. We've been presented with a binary choice, Lansdowne 2.0 or nothing. Ultimately, Lansdowne 2.0 is a question of fairness, financial responsibility, and now accountability. Ottawa residents deserve to be heard, and I'm glad you're out here to do just that. Thank you. It is also my job to introduce a very special guest who's going to be the host of the panel tonight, who's done wonderful work in Ottawa as a former CBC journalist and continues to be engaged in municipal issues right across the city. I'm so pleased to welcome Joanne Cianello to help host the panel.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, here in Barrhaven and online. Look, I have a great job tonight. An easy job, actually, because I just get to introduce this fantastic panel to you of wonderful, very knowledgeable people who are volunteering their time and passion to this issue. And I also get to hear from all of you, your questions, your comments. You know, it's important to be heard. That is what democracy is all about. Now, before I do introduce the panel, though, I want to just share with you the concept of these little red and green sheets that you're all sitting on. You can, of course, you know, clap and maybe boo a bit, but mostly just to keep it going, and we are being broadcast, you can show your anger or your agreement with by shaking one of these sheets. It's very fun, and also you can take them home and repurpose them for holiday decorations afterwards. So, without further ado, our first two panelists are going to delve into the finances of this deal. I'm going to start with Ian Lee. He's probably well known to many of you. He's an associate professor at Carleton University at the Sprott School of Business. Since 2008, he has appeared by invitation before House of Commons and Senate Finance, Banking, Industry, and Trade Committees 25 times concerning public policy debates. He's been invited by Global TV to attend every federal budget lockup since 2008 as an expert witness. So I guess we know where Ian will be tomorrow. So without further ado, Ian, come on up.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for coming. So I've got about 3.5 minutes. I'm going to go big picture, and then my colleague will go into the details a little bit more. So if you can put, there they are. Okay, so I want to go very big picture. And I want to open with it's a great line. We've all heard it before. Yogi Berra. It's Deja vu all over again. And I'm referring to those who remember to 2008-9, when we predicted that this was going to fail. Indeed, so I want to go big picture and start with the fact that the city is relying on this infamous waterfall. I call it, a little bit euphemistically or humorously, I call it a small creek, because the profits are very back-end loaded. L2 is not expected to produce 72% of the profits until 2051. That's a quarter of a century away. And not to be too indelicate, but most of us will not be here. We'll have gone up into the sky somewhere. So, and that's if it makes money. So in the meantime, we'll be, and the city acknowledges this, they are forecasting or building in that we're gonna have to pay interest on that every year from now until then. Just one more, because I love this line and I want to use it, just to remind everybody. In 1930, Babe Ruth was paid more than the President of the United States, and a journalist said, "Why are you paid more than the President?" He said, "Well, I had a better year." We who are opposed to Lansdowne have had a better decade forecasting on the waterfall than the City of Ottawa and OSEG. They have repeatedly failed in their forecasting. Okay. If we can go to the next slide. Sorry, I'm just going down on my own slides too. Just one sec. So as I said, the city already recognizes the risk. This graph, this is showing, and what I want everyone to see, because of the accounting that I think is quite creative. And I'm a former banker. I was 9 years in banking before I went back to school for my graduate education. I lent millions and millions of dollars in Ottawa with BMO. Small and medium-sized enterprises. Mastercraft Construction was one of my customers. Take a look at this. The 6.2, the big bar there that says 6.2 million, that's forecast profits, but they're not materializing for a quarter of a century. But that's what they're counting as part of this project. You look at the second one, and that's what Mayor Sutcliffe has said is going to be put in by the taxpayers, 4.3. But look at the next one, 3.6. That's the appropriation of the tax revenues from the towers that are being taken out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund to allocate to this to make this project viable. But it's just an accounting gimmick because there's nothing to allocate the money. You can just say on a piece of paper you're doing that. So that's and I don't want to run out of time, but I really want to point that out, that this is based on a house of cards, really, when you look at those numbers there, because the first one and the third one is a forecast profit that may never occur, and the third one, I think, is hocus pocus. I mean, you just take the taxes from some project in the city and arbitrarily assign it to the Lansdowne project. You can do that with anything and make debts disappear. The third one, before I run out of time, we can go to the third slide, and that is this is really important. The projected profits, you can see how they are very, very back-end loaded. It's like a hockey stick, and where they really take off is a quarter of a century from now. So this is their numbers we're using. And again, we don't know if those profits are going to materialize. These are forecasts only. And the further you go out in the future, the more unpredictable they are. Last slide. Okay, the air rights. I really want to talk about this because this is important. The auditor today said that the entire L2 depends on this. I'm saying this as a former banker, as a person who's been teaching the strategy capstone course for 35 years, where we work with real documents, audited annual reports, management discussion and analysis, investor presentations. The mayor, to my knowledge, has not presented any documentation to support that number. They've plucked a number out of the sky. When you look at the air rights from L1, 12 years ago, it was a very, very modest number. If you look more recently to downtown, the air rights are about 30 million. That's been reported in the media, and it's not even close to the 65 million. And so what I'm suggesting to you is I do not believe that. So if I can quote one more line from a great movie, Jerry Maguire, Mayor Sutcliffe, show us the money. Show us the money. Thank you.
Well, Ian, thank you for starting us off there. I do disagree with one thing. In 25 years, I will be here. I'm not going anywhere. So, next, to delve a little deeper into the numbers. Alexandra Grutze-McCall, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that again. That was terrible. Alexandra Grutze-McCauley is a former commercial banker and has spent years doing in-depth analysis of Lansdowne financials. She also holds a Bachelor's of Commerce and Finance degree from Carleton University. Come on up, Alexandra.
It's nice to be here. We can delve into any numbers we want when the questions come up. And you know, there are a lot of questions. If Lansdowne 1.0 were a coin, one side of its face would show a happy city of Ottawa, and the other a very unhappy OSEG. City staff displayed a slide last week that illuminated why OSEG has been so unhappy with Lansdowne 1.0. Its projected return is less than 1%, and that, according to staff, would not be fair to OSEG. What staff omitted from their presentations is that the same Ernst & Young projections showed that the highest possible rate of return to the city was 1.0 alone. In other words, the worst case scenario for OSEG, do nothing and carry on with Lansdowne 1.0, is the best case scenario for the city. Next slide, please. A pattern has developed that when OSEG becomes unhappy with its Lansdowne finances, the solution includes new debt, having the city provide guarantees, or, as now, with a plan that will involve major city spending. Next slide, please. If the city does go ahead with Lansdowne 2.0, then what will happen down the road if OSEG's smile begins to turn back into a frown? Next slide, please. As Ian has shown, if the city does proceed with Lansdowne 2.0, it will mean a lot more city debt. In fact, not only direct debt would increase, but also new city guarantees of the partnership's debt, which could reach over $100 million. Next slide, please. Once again, we're facing the threat of OSEG default should the city do nothing. And once again, the anxiety around such an event has functioned as a high-pressure tactic where the city feels there's no alternative other than to acquiesce to OSEG's current solution to its chronic profitability problem at Lansdowne. To date, the city has not made even a rudimentary effort to look at realistic costs and, as importantly, benefits of a no to Lansdowne 2.0 vote. In November of 2023, frustrated with the city's refusal to do something to evaluate the costs and benefits, next slide please, of the alternatives, I made a bare bones attempt to see what might be the outcome of a default by OSEG. Today, with the benefit of more information, I can spot at least 5 errors in these assumptions, but the point never was to offer a definitive number, but rather to show that city staff professionals who do have the access and the relevant data and should undertake a comprehensive analysis. Unless and until someone decides to get serious about looking at alternatives, we'll never know just how happy Ottawa residents could be with getting value for the money that the city spends on their behalf.
Alexandra, thank you so much. That was extremely interesting. I don't think we've heard that kind of analysis before. Now next we have Tone Dreesen. Tone is an architect, advocate, and president of Architects DCA. Tone is a recognized public speaker and published author in local and national media. He has been featured on CBC Radio, the Globe and Mail, the Ottawa Citizen, and many other forums. Tone, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight. So I just want to clarify, I'm here as an architect. I haven't reviewed the detailed plans provided by the design team. I'm not a professional critic, but I'm a regulated professional, so I'm here to speak to the public interest, and I feel that it's my job as an architect, someone who's an advocate for public spaces, to speak in the public interest. So to be clear about the issues around accessibility, the major issues that we have with the existing buildings are that we've not kept pace. These buildings are old. Building codes have evolved. Social norms have evolved for accessibility, and we've not done the incremental work it takes every year, every few years to update the building to do what's necessary to make the buildings more accessible. In fact, we rushed the design for this project to grandfather it under the old building code so that we wouldn't have to comply with the new building code. And that's really a shame, because some of the most major changes to the new building code are around issues of accessibility. And we also have to remember that the building code is the very least we can do. So I don't know exactly what the accessibility plans are in the new project, but we can assume that they're going to be the minimum code requirement. So we should really ask ourselves if we should be striving for better. We have a huge hurdle to meet because we've not kept pace. When it comes to maintenance, we all know what city buildings are like, and city budgets and city austerity budgets are like, and we've underfunded maintenance for years. We have a multi-billion-dollar backlog that's largely driven by underinvestment. And we have to ask, as Sean alluded to, how many of us living in our homes would choose to defer maintenance like this? Likely none of us. We know that if we spent what we spent on our homes, we know what they're worth to us, not just in dollars and cents, but in social capital as places of memory, places of being, where we've raised families and built social capital. But we don't seem able to make that same priority for public buildings as we do for our own homes. So we have to ask if what we're doing makes sense. Imagine if you owned an older home, and one that had been owned before you, and you'd put in time and effort when you moved into it to renovate it, and now it needs some work. It needs a new roof. The kitchen's a little bit worn. The bathroom needs updating. You can see your own future accessibility needs coming. You could, on one hand, get a dumpster, crush the house, stick it in the dumpster, and start over. Or you could do the prudent thing, which is invest in the home, start making proper, prudent investments to maintain it. Is renovating easy? No, not always, but good things are worth doing hard work. And if it's expensive, we only have ourselves to blame that we have this huge mountain to climb due to the years of neglect and maintenance. So when it comes to housing, we declared a housing emergency in January of 2020, and we've continued to underfund affordable housing and make housing affordability expensive and difficult. If we left our buildings on Bank Street, I did just a really fast back-of-an-envelope calculation and said that if we left the existing buildings on Bank Street, left the stadium as it is, left the park as it is, and built the rest of the Lansdowne site as density similar to Paris, with narrow streets, with winding streets, with courtyard-type buildings, we'd get more homes than are in the current plan. We'd also have an incredible city that's walkable with lots of small storefronts and small retail places. Lansdowne is public land. We've given over the use of that public land for the profitability of private industry to subsidize the cost of sports. So we should ask if we're going to continue to allow the private sector to use our public land for their benefit. And that if we sell those air rights to private condo development for for-profit housing, are we advancing our goals of socially responsible, attainable, affordable housing? That purchase price, of course, adds to the cost of every home. And by contrast, we could have sold those air rights to social and cooperative housing and tackled our housing in a meaningful way. A majority of our greenhouse gas emissions are from the built environment. And what we're doing is by crushing this building and sending it to a landfill, we're setting really low targets for sustainability that are basically no better than code minimum. And have to ask ourselves if we're making the right environmental choices for the future health of our planet and abiding by our own declarations of a climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Tone. Up next, we have Rianne Mahan. She is a distinguished research professor at Carleton University, but she is here tonight in her role as Ottawa Charge superfan. All right, over the past year, Rianne has been a dedicated advocate of Lansdowne 2.0 to the Professional Women's Hockey League. Let's hear from Rianne.
So Ottawa's Charge had the highest overall attendance rate in the PWHL's first year. You know why? Because we had the TD Centre. Poor old Toronto and Montreal were shoehorned into small arenas, and they didn't get the people, which even though they have more population, we had the highest. So capacity is important. That's one word I want you to keep in your mind as we go through this. So we were able to meet the demand, the surge in demand, and that surge in demand has continued with this Charge drawing at roughly 7,000 fans normally to games, and when they actually manage to get weekend ice, closer to 8,000 and over 8,000. The charge fans, young and old, come from all walks of life. The games are packed with young hockey players, a lot of them girls, and their families, and in this way the charge provides an important sort of incentive for the future stars. Next slide. So Lansdowne 2.0 is a major step backward, and Sean hit the highlights. There'll be a reduction of seats for most of us by 3,000 seats. Most people didn't know that. Most people don't know that, and they should know that. Laws of supply and demand, when the seat numbers go down, when the prices go up. Oh, but they've offered us standing space for 715 people. As Amy Shearer, the vice president of the charge, pointed out, it doesn't work for us. And there'll be a significant loss of revenue for the Ottawa charge, roughly about $1 million a year, which is not something to sneeze at. As Amy Shearer, one of the vice presidents, said, the proposed arena was designed for a men's team, but with a capacity that limits the growth of women's sports. Next slide. Is there an alternative? Well, the debate, I listened to the debate in the committee, and too much attention was focused on, well, if you're going to add more seats to the planned arena, it's going to cost a lot of money. That is not our only alternative. As has been pointed out, we can continue with the TD Centre, and it can be maintained, improved, until we have the time to develop a better plan. And the PWHL is with us on that. They made it very clear that they'd be happier to have the capacity than to have a shiny new arena. And I'll just give you a little quote from, one last quote, I think I'm still in time, from Shearer, that Ottawa is one of the best places to watch a PWHL game. It's an incredible environment, and that is what our players love about Ottawa. Yes, we'd love to see improvements, but we'd also love to have the 850,000, 8,500,000, I never read bad numbers, fans. Anyway, thank you.
Rianne, thank you so much. I have to say the delegations around PWHL were some of the highlights of the committee meeting last week, and I'm sure you all heard that and has people talking. Now, finally, although Sean Menard probably doesn't need any introduction, I feel that's just rude. So I'm just going to say, you know that Sean Menard is the city councillor for Ward 17, Capital Ward, where Lansdowne is located. Sean was first elected in 2018 and re-elected quite handily, I might say, in 2022. He holds a master's degree in public policy and administration with an undergrad in criminology and justice, criminal justice from Carleton, which is also in his ward. I feel like he must be really, really sick of talking about Lansdowne, but yet, here he is again, Sean Menard.
Thank you, Joanne. I think we've been trying to speak about transparency and accountability with this plan as much as possible. Understanding that the final vote is coming this Friday, I think it'll be a relief for a lot of folks in some way, one way or another. But the bottom line is we're trying to bring transparency and accountability no matter what this decision is on Friday. I also wanted to welcome, there are staffers from other council's offices I've seen here, so welcome to everybody from council's office. I'm glad you're here, and there's other councilors have texted me saying I'm online as well, Sean Devine and others. So. At the end of the day, the Lansdowne 2.0 plan has been devised mostly because, the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group came to the city and asked for something different. They said it's not financially viable for us any longer. And so in doing so, the city, in responding to these requests, the city has had to sacrifice, unfortunately, a lot of public support for the plan and is adding a tremendous amount of throwaway costs in continuing with this plan. I'm going to take you through some of those. We are losing 58,000 square feet of green space. That is true. The popular toboggan hill, Jill Anholt's moving surfaces artwork, 113 trees. But it's not just that we're losing those in this plan. It would also cost us $8 million to tear that out. $8 million to remove that soil, to tear those pieces out. Other throwaway costs for Lansdowne 2.0 include tearing out the new retail, just built in 2014. It's worth over $12 million. And we'd be tearing it out only to add the exact same amount. Well, it's a little bit higher square footage of retail. I want to be as clear as possible, but not much more, a very small percentage more of retail. We would tear out the Civic Center and Northside stands. City staff have valued the replacement costs of those buildings at $140 million. To replace what we have there now would be $140 million of replacement costs, the exact same. We are losing $60 million to pay for lease disruption costs. That's just the city's portion. OSEG is also paying $16 million from tearing out the arena and stands and having to build, say, temporary stands or the lost seat counts that we get there. The city is putting in money. There's $23 million in stranded debt from repairing the Civic Center roof, which $15 million remains. And in addition to that $8 million I mentioned, the city's also continuing down a path to publicly fund 140 new parking spaces to be solely leased by the new private residential tower owners, using new city debt of $9.2 million and $10 million of air rights to pay for it. Some of those air rights money should have been directed towards affordable housing, which we are pushing for. There's also a lot of waste in the plan, as I've mentioned. The city will spend a lot at Lansdowne to get less than we already have, and for what? Add on the fact that we've had this plan sold to us if there's no other alternative. And yes, Lansdowne needs maintenance and improvements, especially for accessibility. You know, it was up to OSEG to do this maintenance. They have the maintenance contract. I did want to also mention, you know, we're talking about losing events if we don't make these upgrades. We're going to slowly lose events there. Well, with these upgrades, we might lose the Ottawa Charge. With these upgrades, we might lose City Folk. With these upgrades, we're losing that toboggan and sledding hill and where people watch games from afar. We are losing so much by pursuing this, and events by pursuing this as well. The Building Trades Council of Eastern Ontario is also here. The unionized, I saw a member here earlier. One of the proponents of the plan has talked about a lot of the job creation here. So much construction jobs. Well, if they're going to be creating construction jobs, you know, the Unionized Building Trade Council is saying these aren't local. If you're going to do this and spend all this money, at least spend it locally here from Ottawa. They're not doing that. It'll be from outside of the Eastern Ontario region. Finally, the model of this project, I need to finish up. The Public-Private Partnership, or P3, has been heavily criticized by Ontario's Auditor General. After Ottawa's P3 light rail disaster, we have more of this criticism now from Justice Horrigan. The Ontario Auditor General has found that these long-term public-private partnership deals, just like this, tend to be more costly, more problematic, and citing evidence that they often cost more than public alternatives, and that the city ends up taking more financial risk. Ultimately, residents deserve a better plan than the only one presented by the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks to all our panelists. I think we're going to start by taking some questions. I'm looking at the who has the microphones. There's someone on each side, so if you raise your hand, someone will hand you the mic. Ma'am, we'll start with you. Oh, I'm sorry, on the left here. You have to. Yeah. You do for the broadcast. Okay, your right and your left. There are people on each side.
I have two quick questions. One is, what does $17 million per year in debt financing represent on a per household basis on a property tax? Do we know how many households there are?
Probably not that much, to be honest. Go ahead, Sean.
So it's $694 million of debt payments over 40 years. $694 million total.
Okay.
Sorry, we're being instructed to stand up. So of the households in Ottawa, of the 694 million, you divide that by what? About 350,000, 400,000 households. You could have to do the math on that one.
The second question was, have the developers committed to a start date for the residential towers? Because I believe that they're not going to be built for another 10 to 15 years at least, so we won't even be getting the tax revenue from the units. And I really feel, and this is the first time I heard it today, that the revenues from the property taxes of the condos are going to stay within the Lansdowne financing as opposed to going into the overall tax pool of the city. I think that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Sean, you go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just property taxes paying for Lansdowne, right? That normally would go citywide, but it's just paying for Lansdowne, as is the sale of air rates. Public money that's going into Lansdowne, the municipal accommodation tax, public money that would normally go to the city or Tourism Ottawa going into Lansdowne. There's a lot of siphoning of funds into Lansdowne. They have, on the books, they're supposed to start building by 2031. That's when they've signed the deal to build by then. If they don't build by then, they could walk away with leaving their deposit of $1 million or $4.7 million later on. The city could also be at fault if the city doesn't prepare the site for development, and we could lose about $13 million if we don't prepare the site for development by that time. So the Auditor General just today pointed out the risk in that and the potential financial cost to the city in terms of the reliance on first the event center that would be built, then the north side stands to be able to prepare for that third phase of the towers going up.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on something you said, Ian, about the air rights. Show me the documents, you said, which is a good line, but it is actually in the RFP. It is in the developer, Mirabella, out of Toronto, has actually promised in a contract to pay that $65 million. But it starts off with only $1 million the first year, a couple years later, another $4.7 million, and then they can walk away. On the one hand, I'm just gonna use two cliches. One is like, don't look a gift air rights in the mouth, right? If they wanna pay $65 million, who are we to say no? On the other hand, you gotta think, wow, this seems too good to be true. And I know privately people in the development world in Ottawa are kind of like shrugging, thinking, where did this number come from? So it's a good thing to watch out for. Does anybody want, Ian, please go ahead.
Yeah, I do.
They'll turn it on at Central. Don't worry, they'll turn it on. And stand up. There's a lot of instructions.
The key point is that's essentially...
Wait, put it right to your mouth. No, you turn it off, okay. I think you weren't supposed to touch those.
Is that working?
Yes, there you go.
Okay. That's essentially an option. I don't want to get into high-level corporate finance, but the $1 million they paid, that because they can walk away with no penalty, no cost, what they've really done is put in an option, the right to buy the air rights down the road. They are not obligated to pay $65 million. Mayor Sutcliffe is inferring that, in my opinion, and I think it's not accurate. All they've done is put $1 million down, small amount for a large company, to have the right to buy those air rights down the road if they decide to. There is no obligation to pay that money. It's a wing and a hope and a prayer sort of thing. And so that is, if I won the lottery sort of thing, well, then I'll be rich. So this is not a contractual guaranteed amount.
Thank you for that clarification. One of the things we're here, often we're at meetings where we're like, oh, let's not get into the weeds. Let's get into a little bit of weeds, right? That's why we're here. Gentleman with the hat, I'm sorry, we have somebody here standing on the left, and someone will bring you the microphone, sir. Next person.
I'm very concerned with the numbers, obviously, but what really scares me, and I'm hoping to get some insight from anyone on the panel, how is it that with Lansdowne 1 and Lansdowne 2 being such large investments, they avoided being discussed in both elections of the time? How is that possible? Just timing, as simple as that?
I think so, right? The first one was in like 2010 with when Jim Watson was running, and it wasn't finalized yet, right? And did people want it? Did they not want it? And it looked like people wanted it because at the time, I'm just answering for the panel. At the time, there was just asphalt, and people wanted something to happen, but the finances weren't out until 2012. And now, it was 2019 that OSEC first started to say we need something, but when the election was on in 2022, again, it was just a theoretical issue. Now, will it be an election issue next year? Panel, what do you think? Well, all right, Tone, let's hear from you. You have to pass the, yeah. And you can just leave them on because
I'm not sure what question I'm answering here.
Well, is it going
to be an election issue? I think it should be. It should absolutely be an election issue. Architecture, the built environment is a political act. So everything that council votes on, that is an election decision, a budget issue, these are all things that affect all of us. Parks, roads, sewers, sidewalk repairs, accessibility, new libraries, all of these things are political decisions. And when it's an investment of public dollars, it's your tax dollars at play. And so you should have a say. And your elected officials, your councillors, your mayor should listen to what you have to say because it's your tax dollars and they're supposed to act in your interests and they're supposed to act in the public interest. And I'm really grateful that we have some really great councillors who do vote in the public interest and do speak their mind in the public interest.
Great, thank you. Just to clarify, people are self-organized better than I am, and they are lined up to speak on the left and the right, so if you want to speak, please go to the sides, and we have lots of time, so we're going to hear from lots of you.
Excuse me, my name is Rob Ryan. As you can see, I'm also an Ottawa Charge fan, and I want to say it's great hockey. It's as good hockey as you're going to find anywhere in the world. So that's a minor detail as far as I'm concerned. The question I want to ask is, we've been talking about losses. We understand that the city of Ottawa is going to lose. Every taxpayer in the city of Ottawa, from Cumberland all the way out to Canada, is going to lose. OSEG is going to lose. We know that. It's lost for 15 years. I've watched this process for 20 years. This is not my first rodeo on this question. I want to know who's going to make money here. Who makes the money here? And I can tell you, and I'm going to say it's the construction companies and it's the developers. And I want to know, and I shouldn't say this, we all want to be nice and polite, whose pocket is the developer, or in the developer's
All right, that's where I'm
pocket?
going to cut you off. I warned you. All right, thank you very much. Next person.
I'm a resident of
Oh, I'm sorry, Alexandra wanted to say, no, speak, yeah.
I think they're
Yeah.
turning it on for me.
Yeah.
And I don't have a whole lot to say about that. However, I think the most important thing is the transparency here that we're not feeling. And I have to say, just from a personal perspective, I didn't go looking to become someone who's read every Lansdowne file from 2010 on. It really is not my jive. However, as a former banker, I got triggered. I got triggered when I read the May 2022 Lansdowne 2.0 flags started flying off every page in terms of the obfuscation and the lack of transparency. And then every report since then, November 2023, and the current one, November 2025, is just doubling down, and those red flags now are just flying off every page. So we do need transparency of the risks and the costs that are involved in this project.
Thank you, Alexandra. And I have been told that to ask people to speak right into the mic so that we can hear for the Rogers broadcast. Thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
I live in Central Ward, and I have two concerns. The first one is I haven't heard anybody mentioning the potential costs that we may be incurring in future years based on climate change. That's an unknown that we know will have costs if it hits the City of Ottawa. The other unknown cost is what's happening with our nearest trading partner, tariffs. We don't know what our future holds there, and those are significant costs that could be added to the final cost of Lansdowne with projected profits. The second one I'd like to raise is, as a resident of downtown in the Lansdowne area, nobody has mentioned tonight about the traffic. It's abysmal as it stands right now. It's supposed to be a pedestrian community. We've got beautiful sidewalks now, but putting in two large condos with people who are going to be in a price bracket of salaries that will be having cars in their garages, that's going to make the street of Bank Street and the surrounding neighborhoods impossible to live with. So I'd like to ask those two criteria if they could be addressed, please.
Great. Tom, we'll start with you.
So the design for Lansdowne is, as I understand it, designed to LEED, typical for all City of Ottawa RFPs for public buildings, and LEED Silver in an urban setting is basically no better than code compliant minimum with a bit of paperwork. So it's not exactly progressive. If you look at progressive standards like the 2030 challenge would suggest that by 2025 we should be at 90% reduction in greenhouse gas and fossil fuel dependence and zero greenhouse gas dependence in operation of buildings by 2030. So we're not exactly striving for like excellence in terms of sustainability. Lansdowne 2.0 would be high-rise concrete towers. So again, a lot of embodied carbon. All of the demolition of the buildings ends up in landfill. All of that embodied carbon ends up in the ground. To invest in new. Opportunities, well, you know, we've sole sourced the design. We've seen one solution and one idea only. Creative solutions could be that the whole Lansdowne redevelopment could be timber, relying on Canadian technology, Canadian materials, Canadian innovation, Canadian knowledge, Canadian materials, and completely isolated from US tariffs. So there's lots of opportunities, there's lots of ideas, there's lots of creativity, but we don't know what any of them are because we only got one idea that was developed at the behest of the development.
Hello. Over here. Yes. Hi. Transit. All right. Who wants to talk about transit? Ryan. Hang on a second. They're going to turn it on over there. Oh, wait, it's not on. Hang on. Can you guys just swap for a sec and then we'll figure that out?
Okay, this is, okay.
Sean,
I'm not an expert on transit, but I did go to the meeting in the Glebe, which was talking about, there'd been a serious study of that whole sort of corridor from the Queensway down to Sunnyside. And it was quite clear that it is the second heaviest bus transit route in the whole city already. And now we're going to add, of course, you made the point they're probably going to be driving cars, but driving cars in an already congested area is just insane. So totally against it.
all right. Sean, did you want to talk to that thing? Okay. Over here.
I have a question about if we've thought about, since the Sens are moving to Le Breton Flats, what potential revenue we can still make since they'll be in direct competition with stores and restaurants and honestly better transit. And lastly, does this council want to be the ones that takes away the space from the Ottawa Charge?
All right. Leah.
I've been waiting for this question all night. I think that the whole debate over Lansdowne is almost a red herring. Bear with me. We know, I'm not speculating, that there's a consensus emerging that we're going to build a really nice sports and entertainment center downtown Ottawa in the Le Breton Flats. It's going to be over $2 billion. And it is not going to only be for hockey. For those who study stadia in the States, there's just massive documentation on this. I'll be very quick. No stadium today, baseball, football, hockey, doesn't matter. They cannot survive on 10 or 12 or 20 games a year. They've got to be running all the time, monster truck rallies, music concerts, whatever. Where am I going with this? When this is built, and I realize it'll take a few years, it's going to be a giant magnet. It's going to draw all the activities into the downtown. So what? It's going to turn the arena in the Glebe into a $500 million Glebe community. Less than $500 million.
Sean, I'm going to ask you. Sean, I'm going to ask you the second part of that question. I think you're supposed to just talk into it. Let's test it. I think they turn it on there if you're not supposed to touch anything. I don't know if that works. But I'm going to also ask you both the question of, does this council, want to be, seen as voting against the charge? But also, why are we discussing Lansdowne like it's in a submarine and not as part of a larger economy with competing things?
That's the issue. That is the issue. It's a bigger question than Lansdowne.
No, it absolutely is. So the EY report addressed this exactly. This was one of the top risks that Ernst & Young had identified, that there could be a stadium put at Le Breton Flats, and this was in 2023 they identified this, and then of course we had the announcement after that. Almost all of the EY risks that have been identified have come to pass. We know the deal is super long. We know that they're going to be, Le Breton Flats Stadium and Event Center. We know the construction costs now, confirmed by the Auditor General, are a concern on the risks, and we know the returns are a concern. They've been stress tested. I do want to say, in terms of the council being the council that chooses or not to have the charge leave Lansdowne, I think the council meeting, if you watched the committee meeting in finance, it was very interesting how councillors approached the PWHL. You know, and I think some of them think, well, it's a shakedown for money. They want more money to be there, and their billionaire sports owner wants that. And I think it's a bit of a betrayal of the fans that go to these games. At the same time, we have obviously a billionaire here in Ottawa who will benefit and is, you know, really pushing the city to do this one plan that he's adopted. And I don't think PWHL was treated very well, and the charge were treated very well, unfortunately, at that finance committee meeting. I don't think that this council or this staff have any qualms about, they're not going to change this plan. They do not want to. This is it. This is the final straw for them. So any criticism, whether it be from city folk, whether it be from the charge, they don't want to go back to the drawing board because they have put so many eggs into this basket, and so it'll be very, very difficult to get them to go back. So are they okay with if the charge leave Lansdowne? I thought from those answers at committee, yes, they are. Now, that's not all councillors, but a lot of them are okay with having the charge leave. A lot of them would be okay if city folk left, unfortunately, because at the end of the day, this is the only plan that they feel they can support.
All right, a lot of red cards here. I just want to go to Caitlin from Sean Menard's office.
So from the live stream, someone has asked, this has been framed as a go, no-go decision that has to be made immediately. Is deferral an option, perhaps until the next municipal election, to allow the residents a chance to weigh in?
So the answer to that question is, yes, deferral is an option. Of course it is an option. The issue with that is there's been so much put into the report about how costs will start to escalate if you defer, how the buildings will lose events if you defer, and the cost of doing nothing. Now, we've refuted a lot of those. The buildings, of course, are not end of life and could be invested in. The cost of doing nothing has been discussed ad nauseum, and EY says that this is going to be cash flow positive as of 2030. So not the best for OSEG, but cash flow. And whether or not this can be deferred, yes, it could be deferred, but you would have you'd have a lot of councillors, and I think in the mayor, saying the more deferral on this, they don't want it to go to an election issue, right? They do not want a referendum. They voted down they were wanting to vote on the motion that I brought forward on a referendum right away. They wanted to vote on it so that we didn't have delegates and draw out the issue more and all the good work that's been done. They want this done before the budget and before the next election, very clearly. So could it be deferred? Yes, it could be deferred, but there are a lot of political reasons not to.
Just a point on that, Sean. I can't remember which of the contracts, but doesn't one of the bids expire in January 2026?
Yeah, I believe so.
So
yeah.
There would be some, they'd have to redo some of it. You can't just put this plan on hold for a year, right?
No, that's right. You'd have to have a new plan, right? Which I think would be so ideal. And to say this plan is not popular, use what we've got right now and come up with a plan that is a much more popular plan for the residents of Ottawa.
Ian?
Yeah. Hi. I just want to make one more quick point about the deferral to the question. I think it should be deferred until we know the outcome of the negotiations over LeBreton Flats. Why? Well, for the obvious reason I gave, but there's a second reason. I did some research. There is no NFL or NHL franchise anywhere in North America where the team owns 2 professional stadia. The one in Canada, I am absolutely certain of the Senators is going to put that on the table as part of the negotiations to do a land swap with the city. There is no commercial market, in my opinion, because that's why the Senators are leaving. The market's not strong enough to support it there. That's why they want to move downtown. So once that deal is negotiated, I'm talking LeBreton Flats, and we find out that the city is going to own that stadium, which I think is very highly probable. This is not speculative, because the private sector isn't going to buy it. And so what I'm saying is that's going to be another option for junior A hockey, for professional women's hockey, and so forth, because that is still a quality site. They're not going to raise Canadian Tire Centre. So we don't know all these facts. All I'm saying is we should wait until we have clarity over the LeBreton Flats, because that's going to include the disposition of the Canadian Tire Centre in Canada. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and we don't know the answers yet. So we should be postponing until we have that clarity.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Better Ottawa, for organizing this and giving us all a chance to speak. My name's Justin Grout. I'm a Centertown resident. I wanted to touch on something, Sean, that you just raised that I think is really important, that you're saying that it's so close to the finish line that they just want to push it over. And I'm only just now getting involved personally, and I do regret that. But I'm wondering, and maybe you could all speak to this, something specific that in the future, before we get to this point, that somebody who really cares about an issue can do to get involved before we're like 95% of the way done, and that isn't voting, because clearly that's not an option. So what can we do before we get to this point specifically that would give us a bigger voice and allow us to, make our voice heard on this? Thank you.
Alexandra.
Thanks, that's a great question. It doesn't have one answer. But one thing that I think would be really helpful is for people to take the time to really dig into some of these reports. And they're not fun. You won't have a good time with them. But what we've seen happen is that the reports have been made unnecessarily complex. Yes, it's a complex deal, but I've worked on a lot of far more complex deals. And at the end of the day, it's really relatively easy to say how much is being asked for, how is it going to be repaid, over what period of time, and what are the risks. And this has been obscured by what I called a sales job on steroids. And we are relying on the pillar of the journalists to give the information to us, but that's getting a thinner and thinner and thinner resource. And I'm sorry to say, it honestly sometimes means going to the city's website, getting that report, reading it, and start to ask the questions. There are people that can answer them, but let's not all continue to be in this state of kind of learned helplessness when people just tell us certain things that don't sound right, and the gut says that it doesn't add up, and yet we don't have the facts at our hands to hit back and say that this isn't factual, this isn't accurate.
Good, well said.
I'll just add
And
really
also-
briefly
and
too, if
Tone
that's
also
okay.
wants to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
So just to say that I would say do anything that you can in your community to get involved in any future issue. So whether that be join your community association, or do some guerrilla gardening, or tree planting locally. Join the Reddit.
Ottawa.
Follow Better Ottawa, and anything like that. Power is built that way. And then I would really recommend getting involved in a city council campaign, right? If there's somebody that you think is running that reflects your views, just volunteering to help them out, it makes a huge difference. And then the issues snowball from there. And that coalition of people, that is how power is built in the city, and things can change. We know that it can. So if you do that, the city will be better for it. And a lot of learning comes through those experiences with other volunteers.
I'd also add that there's a lot of advocacy groups and organizations. So back in leading up to Lansdowne 1.0, the Regional Society of Architects in Ottawa issued a whole series of position papers on options and ideas for how Lansdowne 1 could have gone better. Advocating for design competitions, which council voted for and staff canceled. All kinds of things that were possible, and position papers for how Lansdowne could be developed in the public interest, most of which were all completely ignored. The nonprofit group that I started has started to do this kind of thing as well, and starting to push the ideas of making people aware of the impact of the built environment on your lives. So finding local advocacy organizations, grassroots organizations, Better Ottawa, Better Transit Riders Ottawa is a group that's out. There's advocates for Bank Street Transit, Strong Towns Ottawa. There's all kinds of really vibrant voices. There's an Ottawa Urbanism Book Club that talks about some of these issues. So there's all kinds of great organizations that are out there that you can connect with and learn about and find out more about, and through those networks, make sure your voice is heard.
Got a lot of work cut out for you, Justin. Thanks very much. Over here.
Hello, my name is Megan. I work in Ottawa as a sustainability and retrofit engineer, and I think it's been made blatantly clear tonight that a lot of what Lansdowne is facing is problems with maintenance, and yet you mentioned that the maintenance contract sits with OSEG. So what's going to stop Lansdowne 3.0 from coming out in 10 years due to the fact that they aren't maintaining the buildings? Have there been mentions of any contracts, any negotiation in that space? Because even if they want to redo all of this, if we're going to be having the same discussion in 10 to 15 years, you know, I know someone said that you guys might, not everyone might not be here. I might, you know, I don't know. I'd like to think I'd be a part of that discussion as well. But yeah, just that question to the room about that agreement between OSEG for maintenance within the building itself.
I can just start. So great question. A couple of things have happened. Number one, the city has never done an independent audit of how they've been maintaining those buildings. They've just accepted what they've said over the past 12 years. So independent audits are necessary. The other thing is, our team put forward a motion to have better oversight of the finances and the site itself. So, the city is an arm's length partner. They can't get too involved, but to the extent that they can, which is more frequent audits, actual public audits, doing proper audits of all the 4 business lines, those things would help a tremendous amount. Other councillors who I know are voting for the deal have also said, look, there should probably be an oversight board. There should be more oversight here. So I think after those 11 straight years of losses that we've seen, and the stated reason being that a lot of the decline in the building based on maintenance, which OSEG is responsible for, we're starting to come around at, this needs to change into the future, and it's a little too late for this time around, but I hear what you're saying and appreciate exactly where you're coming from. I don't know if Tone, if you want to add more.
No, I just want to say first though, Sean, and maybe Tone, just to be clear, did OSEG not replace the roof of the arena, even though it's a city asset at some point? What was the whole leaking roof debacle?
Well, it's a huge saga.
No, everyone wants to talk. I know.
It was a structure. Yeah, and you can jump in a sec here. Please. But there was a $23 million roof. It was this corroded steel that had to be replaced. It was replaced. But OSEG disputed that with the city and wanted the city to pay for it. Finance committee approved that it would go back into the partnership and not just have OSEG pay for it, even though they had initially would have been responsible for that under the P3, and agreed that it would go into the partnership.
And they split the money, right? But Alexandra, please.
So those are correct bare bones. But just to say, at the time when OSEG disputed those costs, the city's position in the memo is that you took the buildings as is, where is. That's how you signed the contracts, look after them. You also had your engineers do a full physical due diligence. You were very aware that they were built in 1967 before you signed. And the deal was that the partnership now took out a loan, paid out OSEG, the $23.6 million to repair that roof, but the city guaranteed that debt. So it's still a city guaranteed debt within the partnership, and there's something like $14 million left, and even if the roof is now torn down, the debt still stays and still has to be paid.
But just to be clear, who is paying that debt? OSEG is paying all of that?
No.
Okay.
So this is
the partnership.
the partnership. So we often use OSEG as shorthand for the
Yes.
partnership, and things get confused. But it's the city OSEG partnership with a city guarantee.
All right.
So any debts that partnership takes on is less money for any partners to receive out of the waterfront.
Including the city,
Yeah.
of course. All right, and Tone, you want to say something quick?
And the other thing I would
I
just
hope
add.
that you've really started something here, a structural engineer. All right, go.
So the other thing I would add is just the nature of P3. People who know me know that I don't like P3s. And if you look at like the maintenance of the LRT, the dirty glass, the patched walls, the leaky tunnels, the slippery tiles, like all of that, that's all maintenance, right? You look at every hospital that's been built in Ontario in the last 30 years, most of them are a design, build, finance model that have that sort of maintenance contract. And, sure, the operating rooms are clean, but the waiting rooms are dirty, the chairs are scuffed, things aren't cleaned and maintained to the way we would if it was our asset and we were maintaining it, if in a proper ideal world. And that's fundamentally why the P3 doesn't work, and largely because those contracts are like this thick, they're massive, you usually can't really, most ordinary people can't really read them, and the nuances of them leave so many gaps and loopholes that it can be So sure, it'll be maintained, but it'll be maintained to within an inch of its life. And at the end of its contract life, it'll be handed back to us as if it was, you know, a 50-year-old asset. But a 50-year-old asset, guess what, needs lots of repair and renewal. So maintained.
Thank you. We're going to go to Caitlin for a question from our online audience.
So there's a few questions floating around, mostly around traffic and transportation. Someone asked, if this passes, how is the increased traffic going to be dealt with that comes out of the construction? And another person asked, what is the plan for traffic congestion on Bank Street, considering there are schools, long-term care homes, and residential or retirement residences nearby?
So it's about traffic during and post-construction.
So during construction, they are planning on running heavy trucks out of Lansdowne, either north or south on Bank Street, depending on which portion of the construction it is, or on the QED over to Wilton.
Do you think the NCC will allow that?
So the NCC has given their approval for that portion of truck traffic to run. It's going to run under the Bank Street Bridge in a highly pedestrianized area onto Wilton, and then turn onto Bank Street from Wilton. So Old Ottawa South, Glebe, from or Riverside will be receiving. There's a lot of truck traffic for 9 to 10 years. Yeah, it's a concern. It's a concern for residents, for businesses.
Flags over the 9 to 10 years.
Yes.
Of construction.
And then the transportation plan for afterwards. I mean, there's the transportation planners here. Their TDM analysis doesn't provide any improvements. They're not suggesting any improvements to transportation as a result of Lansdowne 2.0. I did put forward a motion that talked about a lot more, park and rides and lower cost transit, and if you have free transit with your tickets, that should be expanded on Bank Street. There are options here, low cost options that the city could do that haven't been entertained to date. That would really help with the congestion that we're seeing on Bank Street. It's going to be a problem, not just the tower piece, but just the amount of events they're talking about. It's congested on the weekends. The 9 to 5 is not so bad. It's outside of that that we're going to have concerns there, and the city needs to have more of a proper transportation plan if this does go forward.
All right, thank you, Sean.
Maybe that's design.
It's really working now, so all right.
Maybe the microphones were designed by OSEC. I just want to say I'm not an engineer. My name's Chris Nate. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a finance guy. But my spidey sense is tingling, because this reminds me an awful lot, this whole process, the lack of the rush, the lack of clarity, transparency, a lot of Lansdowne 1.0 and the LRT stages 1 and 2. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And a rhetorical question, I wonder which is going to come first. Is OSEC going to make money, or the Leafs going to win the Stanley Cup? The two questions I have. One is the negative impacts on the local businesses. People are talking about traffic, so I won't repeat that. How many businesses, I don't know the BIAs, how many businesses went out of business during phase 1? How many are going to go out of business in phase 2? And these are local businesses. These are not multinationals. It's not Whole Foods. And the second question I have is, and maybe it's too much in the weeds, is about the concessions at the sporting events. Does OSEG get the money for the concessions, food and beverages? That's a lot of money, because if you go to a rock concert, the rock band, they don't get it. So those are just a couple of my questions, and thank you.
Sean, do you want to deal with that?
So just on the great questions, on the business question, so We know that it's going to be much harder this time than Lansdowne 1.0 because the entire area is developed now. There's a lot of businesses on site, and of course the businesses that continue on Bank Street. We know we are losing some businesses right away, right? A lot of the small businesses that are in the J block there, of course, will be torn out. So Beandigan Cafe, one of Ottawa's only Indigenous cafes, will be gone. The Good Life is going to be, kicked out to some other location. We don't know where the Good Life is supposed to go. Could be a horticulture building, but I don't think so. It could be another place on site, could be off-site. Cigar Man that's there, Cinnaholic that's there. Those are small businesses that are going to be lost. In addition, the BIA did a survey, and some businesses are certainly concerned, and others are not. Others think that this will be okay. You talk to some businesses there during game days, it's a lot worse for them during game days. People are shuffled into Lansdowne, and some, they benefit from game days. Tend if you're a bar or food establishment or a different type of business. I think the crux of it is that given how Lansdowne's been developed and what's there now, we are at much greater risk of affecting the existing businesses both on-site in the vicinity than we were under Lansdowne 1.0. And the business disruption costs, those are all going to basically OSEG and the partnership. Is for the people that not in their seats anymore when the north side stands come down. That's all money the city is giving, $16 million of public money for that interruption cost, not for the small businesses in the area. Alexandra, I know you wanted to talk about the second portion.
Just a very quick portion about the business interruption costs. And just to, there are 4 business lines in that partnership bubble. There's the Red Blacks, the 67s, the Event Center Stadium, and then the retail sector. And up till now, it's really the retail sector that's been subsidizing the other 3. But you were asking about concessions, that's actually within the partnership bubble. That's the Event Center, part of their revenue. But business interruption costs, which the city will pay 50% of those. In 2021, there was a report to council asking in very general terms, should we have a new arena, and council said yes. But there were 6 guiding principles, and we can really debate, the first 2. But one of them was, if you do go ahead and tear down the arena and build a new one, the city will not cover business interruption costs. And and again, the memories are short. Under this proposal, the city has agreed to cover 50%. Right now, they're estimating that'll be $16 million, but I don't believe there's actually a cap on that. It's just 50% of whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would also point out that during the Finance Committee debate, when the PWHL was up, there was some discussion because they're going to lose $1 million in a smaller arena. Could they have a larger percentage of the concessions that go to the league? But that's going to be a debate between the PWHL and OSEG, so it's not really part of this partnership plan or this report that we're seeing now, I should say. All right, we're good? All right, over here.
Hello, my name is Aaron, small business owner, and city staff will know me because I'm often talking about skate parks. First quick thing, we should thank the young man who first civic engagement, big green flag, you did a lot coming out, thank you. Before council votes, has the city commissioned or received any truly independent third-party cost benefit to justify the project? And if not, how can council and the city meet their duty of care to taxpayers under the Municipal Act, especially when the financial modeling relies on the own numbers and consultation parameters set by the city and OSEG, which together remove independence? The city's own reports state restricted reliance, not intended for benefit cost. Perhaps the economist can comment, but that lack of independence matters because it means every single decision under this project done by council has been by design circular. The city and OSEG have been the borrower and the banker checking their own books.
All right, Ian?
Yeah. So someone else may have a bit more on this, but on cost benefit, so the figures that are being used in the forecast were very carefully vetted by Ernst & Young, and they did a fantastic job. There's a full 90-page report actually. What has not been reported was all the caveats in the report, all the risks. Like for example, for these projections to pan out, there has to be, it's critical that the Red Blacks improve their team performance. I mean, that's a direct quote. There are these risks throughout. We don't hear about the risks, but they're in the Ernst & Young report. And there's also the Deloitte report on economic impact. Both reports clearly state that we were not mandated to look at opportunity cost. So we were not mandated to look at, could this money give you better value elsewhere? Could there be more benefit? That was not within the terms of their contracts.
I would also say that the Auditor General today, in her report, said, looked at the projections because you bring up the team and said, somehow the growth of the team is going to, revenue growth is going to grow by 8 or 9%, even though it's only been 5% in the last couple of years, but the costs of operating are only going up 2%. I would love that deal myself, but anyway. Tone, how about you?
The other thing I guess I'd add is that I don't think there is, I mean, I suppose in theory, there is no real viable do-nothing approach because, you know, they're aging buildings, they're our buildings, they're our assets, we invested in them 50 years ago, so we need to do something to maintain them, you know, to repair the lights and fix the roof. And
so can I interrupt you? Do you mean like more than the $1 million we spend a year to maintain it?
Yeah.
Like we need to do more than that, right?
There's more than that because we haven't spent enough money on it properly, and we need to do things like make it accessible. And there's things that we can do. It's just a question of what on the table right now is it good value? Are we getting good value as a result for that? Is it better for the public interest to spend this kind of money to get this result? Could we do something different? There's a lot of different things we could do, but we don't know what they are because we picked one design. We only picked one option. So there's a lot of things we could do. We could explore different options. We could explore different ideas, different ways to spend less money and get better value and get better results. But we don't know what they are because we've not tried.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much for your question.
Thank you. My name is Jessica. I'm a Centertown resident. I may not be a Charge super fan, but I have been a season ticket member holder for all 3 years of the Charge existence.
Oh, that's pretty super. That's good.
Thank you. And a lot of the questions I was going to have been kind of asked around, but I'll offer kind of 2 supporting anecdotes. One is before a game last season, I was eating dinner at Paper Tiger, and I had a conversation with one of the waiters there. Paper Tiger is a great noodle bar, by the way, if you've never been. And he noticed my Charge sweater, and he was like, oh, it's so great seeing Charge fans here. Because I guess the clientele of the Red Blacks and the 67s, they're not going to Paper Tiger, but the Charge fans are. Like, the Charge fans are spending money in the GLEAT. So I think that's a really important thing when you think about the capacity that's going to, you know, go down and the interruptions in the interim while the construction's happening. The second thing, one of the other citizens here mentioned, you know, does council want to be the council who says no to Ottawa Charge? It's not just that. I won't ascribe any intentions to Mayor Sutcliffe and council, but former Olympian Tessa Bonham said in a recent podcast that this is bringing shame to Ottawa, that it is reflecting extremely poorly on Ottawa's reputation as a champion of women's sports. So there's also the reputational damage. How could we be credible as a host for future events, future hockey events, if we mess this up right now?
Thank you so much. Thanks for your comment. Awesome. We're going to go now to Caitlin with a question from online.
Is there any data to support the building of the 2 residential towers regarding the impact to transportation, transit, and other essential services?
Transportation impact assessment.
I don't have a comprehensive answer to that, but one thing that really sticks with me when it comes to transportation is with the towers, there were consultants hired by OSEG to look at a transportation impact plan. And one of the things, by the way, they said that because the event center is smaller and the stadium will have fewer seats, there's actually going to be no traffic impact on any particular day. But with the towers, I asked, 3 separate meetings, I asked, have you factored in all the extra delivery vehicles. And the first time I asked that, I think was misunderstood, and I started to get an answer about, like, you know, thinking of deliveries to Whole Foods or something. Well, they come at 5:30 in the morning. And I said, no, you know, we're talking about like the Uber Eats and the online shopping and the food deliveries and the cars coming, going all the time. And the answer all 3 times was no, because that wasn't within the scope of what we were contracted to look at. It's just not there. And the third time I asked it, actually, there was a bit of a roll in the eyes. It's like I've answered you before, you know. But these are, you know, real people, real questions, because these are going to be real cars coming in and out off site. So I just thought I would mention that.
Thank you. We're going to go over here. Oh, we have half an hour left. I thought we had so much time, but time is going quickly. Please.
Hi, Missy Rudenbrown. I'm a City of Ottawa resident, and I have been aware of Lansdowne 1, Lansdowne 2 now. Started to realize I should get more familiar with what's going on. So I watched Mayor Sutcliffe's press release. And in the work that I do, I have had to have media training and have a little bit of knowledge about how to prepare for media. And what struck me was just how convincing that he was trying to be, using sort of scare tactics that, oh, it's just going to be a big empty lot if we don't go with Lansdowne 2.0, which I disagree with, and we've heard about all the things that could happen. And as a City of Ottawa resident...
I believe he said it could be like 24 Sussex with the rats coming through.
With the rats.
There's going to be
too.
rats
With
coming
the rats,
through.
Yeah.
So,
so I don't really have a question. I'm really disappointed that Mayor Sutcliffe is not here tonight, and nor is anyone from OSEG. And it's not that I don't want any change at Lansdowne. Like, we live really near Lansdowne. It's pretty good, like, physically, and I think if you could hire another group to manage it who know how to manage things like this, it could probably be quite successful. But it's not. Anyway, I just, I'm very sad about this, and I wanted to say that to Mayor Sutcliffe, but he's not here, so maybe he'll hear it anyway.
that's right. You can always email him. I actually want to ask people that, like, I was obviously in the media for 30 years. I covered City Hall a long time. I felt really badly for my reporter colleagues, former colleagues and my friends at that press conference, because they are asked to ask questions of the selected facts they are given. They don't have a report. And I heard from a lot of people, and I read Bruce Deitchman's column in the Ottawa Citizen. They were surprised. They haven't kind of seen this side of the mayor, thought it was a little bit of a sales job. What is the reputational impact on, not the decision, but how it's discussed? Like, do you guys have any views on that? How about, Rianne, I'm going to put you on the spot. We haven't heard from you in a while. You got 2 microphones, one each hand.
I am by training a political scientist, but that's not my area of
It's okay.
expertise.
You live here. Like, you know, you watch, you're a close watcher of things happening in the city. What did you think of that?
Appalled, really. I mean, I also listened to the way they dealt with the PWHL people at the committee hearings, and frankly, it's very good you couldn't hear my language because I was swearing rather loudly. It really, I was embarrassed. And I think the general sense is that they really have done us a lot of discredit.
All right. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you so much. My name's Chris Moran, and Sean, I'm in your zone. I'm in your ward. Thank you. I will say this is my first time ever at a city meeting, and this has irritated me enough to actually drive out to Barrhaven for this conversation. On a Monday night...
That's going to be their new slogan.
I have never gone to City Hall. I have never gotten involved in anything like this. But I am that stoked about this. I'm so angry. And I'm hearing a lot of analogies about this evening, you know, the broken house, etc. But the one that I would bring is the one where the spirit of Lansdowne feels like a fire that's just getting ignited. It's early. We have these new teams. We have PWHL. I'm not a super fan either, but we go to the games. I went to a basketball game for the first time in my life. I'm not a sports fan, and I go there, and I spend money at Lansdowne, and you know, it's something that I feel is making our city better. We have a spirit, we have things to cheer for, and it's just getting started. I feel like this move is not an investment. This is a gust that is not going to ignite or spread that fire. It's going to snuff it out. And I will just say, I left 2 little kids at home to come here. But when I said what I was doing, I asked them, is there anything that you want me to say to the mayor if I see him? And my little one said, yeah. Tell him there's a perfectly good stadium and ask him, why would we do this?
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming out. It's really important that you're heard. This is what it's all about. Over here.
Yeah, hi there. My name is Joe. I'm a resident of Somerset Ward, but I work in the Capital Ward just down the street from the future site of Lansdowne 2.0. And I kind of wanted to piggyback a little bit on a comment made earlier just about the how this will possibly reflect on Ottawa as a city, but not also that as like, you know, taxpayers, as residents of Ottawa, that we allowed for what is, you know, ostensibly a $500 million ripoff, and then allowed for you know, the city to kind of so blatantly disregard the interests of the actual residents of the city in exchange for, you know, whoever it is at OSEG that'll be benefiting from this, or the developers or whoever. And it's, you know, it's a question I'll be able to kind of reflect on, and I'm sure a lot of people will be able to reflect on as we, you know, wait half an hour for a bus that never shows up, past, you know, a really ugly monstrosity that is being built, and incurred whatever psychic damage that comes with that. Yeah, so I guess it's really just, you know, a question for us as residents of Ottawa, of, you know.
So what's your question?
Oh, how will this reflect, you know, on the city?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say this to the last 2 speakers. I just want to thank you for coming up and speaking and saying your piece about this. It is so important that you've done that. I've never seen an issue like this ignite so much on social media. You know, the media is covering it heavily. People are very exercised about this. It's been a very, very long time since I've seen this. It wasn't the same in Lansdowne 1.0. This is truly a citywide concern that people are expressing right now, and they've seen through some of what's happening here, and they are mad about it. And I think that the fact that is occurring will carry through the next little while for all the services that we don't have enough of. You know, transit, affordable housing, our infrastructure deficit. These are things that, unfortunately, there's been a lot of ignoring of those issues, and people remember this. And so it's important to take this action, you know, to do this action now, and then continue it. Keep talking to your friends and family about this, and 2026 is not far away. They need to remember how you're feeling at that time, whoever's running in your ward. Talk to them about these issues, because we have enough money for Lansdowne. We don't have enough money for, you know, affordable housing. We have enough money for Lansdowne. We don't have enough money to fix our sidewalks. We've got money for Lansdowne, not for transit ridership. We've got money for Lansdowne, you know, not for things like, you know, more green spaces, more parks investments, the stuff that's like low cost, community center buildings. There's, you know, I have to fight to get community center buildings repaired in the ward, or, you know, ones that have been there for a long time too, and it's so hard to get $3 million to help, you know, refurbish them. We can't do it. We go in, I beg you know, in budget meetings with the mayor to say, look, I just need a little bit of money for a community center, but we can do everything in the world for Lansdowne Park. Every single, you know, we can usher a lot of money in there. So anyway, I want to thank you for the last speaker too, for what you said. I really feel that there is more momentum behind this issue than any other municipal election issue we've seen this term, and that needs to continue no matter what happens on Friday.
Thank you, Sean.
I'm Lucas, and I'm a person with a limited mobility, and I was wondering, because of what the Lansdowne 2.0 was not considered another option for the event center than at Lansdowne, but I guess now it's because it's being at Lansdowne still. But I was wondering if it's if for the accessible, because there's a lot of accessibility in this new arena event center, but I wasn't heard anything about any underground entrance from the parking garage, because it's one thing for the people with wheelchairs to go in like the summer, fall, and spring out like from on the exhibition way into the front entrance, into the main entrance. But if it's in the middle of the winter and you have to go up from the parking lot out across, like it's freezing cold. So like if there's like a fantasy and not money is an issue, can I ask it at the panelists if anyone can get an opinion if some underground entrance from the parking garage, existing parking garage, to the planned event center would be feasible idea, or yeah, please.
Does anybody know the designs enough, Joe?
No,
I don't think they're really out this detailed inside designs. Either of you guys know that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact details, and I wouldn't want to critique the other architect designer. I'd get brought up in front of my regulator. But you know, the whole spirit of this is that it's not just about, you know, wheelchair accessibility, but about inclusivity. So how do you make this space, make any space accessible, make it feel welcome to, you know, not just wheelchairs, but scooters and walkers and the blind and the deaf, and like to make a space really feel accessible. And that's the challenge to me, is that if what we're doing is minimum code, then we're gonna get the very least we can do. So maybe there's a good solution, I don't know, but we need to think about how we can make all public spaces, public buildings, public activities as inclusive as possible. And we can't do that if we're only looking at one idea and one solution.
Great, thank you.
I'll just add that, you know, we had this discussion at council about accessible parking on the site, because right now there's parking spots, but there are not many accessible spots. And we had a motion to say, let's make all of the parking spots at Lansdowne, there's not too many of them, on that site completely accessible. And council didn't want to move forward with that at the time. But this is the sort of change that we need. Accessibility of transportation is extremely important in and out of that site, and you're speaking to it. I see you a lot on our meetings. You're a resident of Canada, I think? Oh. Well, I'm so happy you're here, and thank you for participating in all these meetings. Thanks, Lucas.
Thank you for coming out.
Hi, I'm Jane Keeler. I live in Old Ottawa South, luckily, but I'm sort of in that Lansdowne overflow parking area. But that's fine, actually. What I'm wondering, and I don't really get it, why is the city paying for the underground parking for these luxury buildings? Most people don't get the city to build things underneath it. It's because they can't build in the air. I don't get what it is. Thank you.
Excellent point. That was a bit of a surprise, I think, in the report, right?
Yeah, it was a huge surprise. They were so initially, the initial report said that we were going to take out debt to pay for those parking spaces, and then we would lease them back to the private residential developer at a loss to the city, so that we would be actually paying $600,000 a year to lease those spaces. Now the deal has changed. The parking costs have gone up, $19.2 million. The city is still paying for them and would own the parking spots, but would lease them to the developer. And the reason why they said they were doing that is because they could get more money for the air rights if they were including parking in there.
And isn't it going to be break even now? We're not going to lose $600,000.
That's right. And now what the change is that it's going to be, you know, break even, because we're not taking out as much debt for them, because $10 million is going to go from the air rights directly to the parking. But that $10 million, half of it was supposed to go to affordable housing. Staff did not recommend that in the report. Now we have a motion to try to change that. I do think that would change on the Friday, is to actually go back to building affordable housing and more money towards affordable housing instead of the parking. But this is a big concern, is that the city is building the parking for the residential developer.
Why was that ever planned? Because
These arrangements are like Alice in Wonderland. I mean, honest to God. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. We don't know. All right. Over here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Valerie Swinton, and I've been involved in this Lansdowne issue for a number of years now, and attended the delegations last week and so on. And I'm feeling like we're being taken in by a bunch of snake oil salesmen. So yes, OSEG was responsible for maintenance, and a friend and colleague under an ATIP request discovered that they did almost no maintenance. I understand that they didn't even do the annual inspections thoroughly, and were only responded to one request when some ceiling tiles fell down, I think at the sports workout center. Anyway, these are the things that make me feel like we're being taken in. The mayor was doing media before the documentation about the plan was made available to media or to anybody else. The Ernst & Young and the Deloitte reports had huge caveats at the end of them, saying things like, this is only based on current economic environments, not looking into the future at all. And we're using only the numbers that the city and OSEG partnership have provided to us. Well, what kind of a report does that end up with? Something that supports, if possible, what OSEG is doing. Now, new information came up at the Finance Committee last week. Any reasonable business person would say, oh, wait a minute, we've got to take in these new considerations. No, they voted to send it as approved by Finance Committee to Council. I think that's egregious. So every trick in the trade is being used to sell this snake oil project to us as a benefit to the city, and underpinning it all is that developer influence in this city is very powerful, and we need to do something about it.
Ma'am, do you have a question?
I do.
Great, let's hear it.
Why was the audit committee, which is scheduled for tomorrow and which should provide excellent input into the Finance Committee deliberations, why was that planned afterward?
Well, that is an excellent question.
Oh, that is a fantastic question, and I'll just answer it really shortly. That the Auditor General will tell you that this has been a rush for them. They have not been able to, and this has been reported publicly, but not been able to complete as much work as they would have liked on time. And when this came out, they booked a meeting as quickly as they could with the report just released today. And unfortunately, the time given, because there was an extension for the bidders for the event center and the north side stands, they extended that into September, way beyond what they thought they were going to. That left very little time for the Auditor General to do their work once they were getting a picture of the new report that was going to come out. She saw the report, similar to everyone else saw the report. So that's why it was so delayed. It is part of the fast push here to have this decision
She literally
made.
calls it a sprint audit. So, I'm not even kidding. We have just a few more minutes for questions, so let's try to get a few more in. We're going to go online. Caitlin, what do you have for us?
In terms of the financial feasibility of this proposal, if the current tenants move on from the newly built facilities, what market do the financial projections say the infrastructure would serve? So if we lose our teams that are there right at this moment.
You got a good answer for that, Sean?
Are they talking about the retail or do you know the
I believe
the retail buildings? Well,
no, the arena, the sports.
Oh, sports.
The teams.
Well, I don't know who could take that place. I mean, I think it was the whole point where Lansdowne 1.0, why they said they were coming back, and you can dispute this, but they said it was because they were bringing football back to the city of Ottawa, and there was a huge group of folks who love sports and wanted to support that plan because football was coming back, and whatever it cost, it was okay to bring football back. And now we're finding out that a lot of teams could leave as a result of, at least one team, and other events could leave as a result of
Although
Lansdowne 2.0.
OSEG has actually committed to extending their teams, so Red Blacks and the 6-7s, an extra 10 years to 42.
We pushed them hard on that, and we got the 2042 extension. I mean, the deal goes to 2075, and the Auditor General has pointed out that after 2042, you can't necessarily discount the Red Blacks leaving the city of Ottawa, which would be a huge financial hit in their projections.
Thanks,
so I don't
Sean.
have a better answer for that.
All right, I'm just rushing to get a few last ones in. Thank you.
Hi, it's Peggy West. I live in Old Ottawa East, and I want to thank you for this evening. There's lots of background information coming through. And I particularly what really speaks to me is what's not being done in the city because of the money that's going for Lansdowne 2.0. But I want to say, okay, why are we here tonight? And what do we do between now and Friday to change things?
The biggest, great question. Keep the pressure up. The biggest
Stand
thing
up,
you can
Sean.
do, the biggest thing you can do is to email or phone your friends and family in other wards where that councillor is either on the fence or unsure or potentially, voting for the deal, and trying to say, look, I'm a resident of your ward and I don't agree with this plan. That is the best thing you can do, and what we've been trying to encourage people to do throughout. Right now, I'll be honest with you, it looks like the vote is lining up of like a 15-10 vote. We'll see how it goes. That may change. I don't know. But there's a few councillors that have said they're on the fence about it. And it's important that you talk to your friends and family to make sure they're emailing their councillors in other wards. Saying you're a resident of their ward is exceptionally important. That is the very, very best thing that you can do at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're saying that to friends, but they not necessarily engaged in it. You got to get them engaged. Send them some of the news articles that have been coming out just recently. I mean, gosh, there's been such a steady stream of news articles on this issue, that really egregious things that have been coming out through this last couple of weeks. Send them those, and hopefully that helps them.
Thank you.
Matt Sanger. I'll go straight to my question because I think it follows well from that one. And just for the panelists to comment on the responsibilities of the council in this approval process, because one of the things that I found a little disturbing in the finance committee was the number of times that some councillors, there were some great questions from some councillors, but some councillors referred to past decisions in this gating process and said, we agreed to this, why would we review these decisions that we made previously? So we don't want to, even though there's been new information presented, why would we revisit that decision? So I'd like you to just comment on the responsibilities those councillors have on Friday on a decision that's going to be really important for
Yeah,
this,
that's a good question. The fact of the matter is, it's designed that way. They are designing it that way to proceed in that gated fashion. But at the end of the day, now we're told this is it's either this or nothing, and it's been set up to be that way for several years now with this file. And I think every time we would ask city staff, well, could you consider another option? Well, council didn't give us that direction, right? Council did not give us that direction. And that may be true, but those things can change. I had a motion to look at an alternative to this, and that motion failed 12-11. And that would have been a really important thing to say, look at what other alternatives are there to this plan? Let's look at them, but they didn't want to look at them. They voted against looking at all their alternatives. Why? Because this is the plan that they want. It's the one and only OSEG plan that a lot of those councillors and staff are pushing for.
Or they want to not talk about it anymore, right?
That's
That's
right.
the other thing.
That's
It's not necessarily that they think it's a great plan, and I'm not putting words in their mouth, but you spend a lot of money, you spend a lot of time, and people are like, let's just go. And, that can be dangerous. Alexandra, quickly.
Yeah, very quick comment, just to re-emphasize that when statements or claims are being made, we agreed to this in 2021, read the document. There are 6 guiding principles upon which one most definitely says the city will not provide business interruption coverage if this project goes ahead, and the city is covering those business interruption costs. I mean, that's just one. So those guiding principles are just not being met. So to say we agreed to it, well, actually, you didn't agree to that. You just
All
didn't.
right, thank you. Might sneak one more in here, maybe 2, if they're fast.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I live in Canada, and if I cut out all the preamble, obviously I originally came for hockey today. But the question that keeps coming up over and over in my head is, honestly, what is the point of building this arena the whole project, but every piece of it seems to be lesser than what we currently have. So to spend all this money on something that's not actually achieving anything better, and also will end up leading to lost revenue. If we have fewer seats, we'll have less tourism, less people in restaurants. It's affecting the whole community negatively, so I don't know. Anyways, that's my thought.
I'm going to just say what OSEG would say. I'm not here representing OSEG or the city, but just because they're not here. I think they would say, with that the new size, 58 seats, they can have, more concerts of that size. It would be a better facility, so it would attract more people. There'd be these party areas. This is why they say capacity instead of just seats. But what we've heard from, they don't need that many seats for the 67s, who average about 4,000 people, but they do need it for the charge. So I'm just here to say that's what they would say. What would you guys say?
Well, the mayor's slogan when he came out in advance of the report was more for less. And yeah, we are spending a lot more and getting a lot less, right? I mean, we're going to have no roof over the north side stands, 3,000 fewer seats in the event center, fewer seats in the north side stands, no transportation plan, higher ticket prices, lost green space. I mean, the plan is getting worse for park goers, for people who care about finances, and for people who go there for sporting events. It's not getting better for those fan bases and for park goers, and it's going to cost us a whole heck of a lot more money with the, fingers crossed, hope that it returns revenues 50 years into the future. So I think, your point is well taken. And I think we're winning the argument. We're winning it in the media. We're winning it online. We are winning this argument, but those councillors that are still voting that way need to be convinced, because I don't think that it's the representation of public is being heard, even though we are winning these arguments.
Tone, quickly.
Just very quickly, I guess one of the things that, as a professional who spends his time dealing with contractors and architects and clients and homeowners, when something sounds too good to be true, it often is. You renovate a house, you meet a contractor, you do something, and you get a price, and it seems too good to be true. There's something missing. So when you see this, and it's such a rosy, optimistic picture, and oh, gee, it's so great and it's so awesome, it might not be. There's something missing, and we're being sold a pig in a poke, in my opinion.
All right, thank you. Fantastic job, panelists. That is wonderful. I'm going to call up Neil Saravanamuddu to wrap it up. Thank you all for your questions and your comments. Thank you.
All right. Wow, what an evening. Did you learn something new today? I certainly did. Fantastic. I want to first of all thank the Salvation Army for having us in this fabulous facility. I want to thank Rogers for broadcasting this online. I want to thank our fabulous moderator, Joanne Chianello. Yay! And our wonderful panelists, all 5 of them. And of course, I want to thank everyone that was able to show up here tonight, either in person or online. So thank you, everyone. Now you made your thoughts clear. The mayor and many councillors may not have been here, but I know that a number of them will be online tuning in. And so councillors, I want to talk to you. This is what I heard tonight. I heard people who care about this city. I heard people who expect better from City Hall. And I heard people who are prepared to do something about it. Okay. We are not going to roll over. This does not end on Friday. But on Friday, we need a show of strength, okay? Now, we're going to be meeting in front of City Hall, Marion Dewar Place, at 8:30. More details will be provided on social media tomorrow, but for those that are able to join us, we need you there to show councillors how serious we are and how much we need. This is $500 million on the line. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, and thank you, and have a great night. Thank you.